I lead an organization called Fine Acts. Basically, we are a non-profit creative studio for social impact. In a nutshell, what we do is amplifying human rights and environmental messages through art and creative campaigns. What is distinctive about us is that we operate across geographies, so we're global, across fields, across art mediums. Our work spans from public art interventions through videos, photography, illustrations, sometimes board games, books, and so on and so forth. We're also what we call issue agnostic, meaning that we work on a host of human rights and environmental issues like democratic values, freedom of expression, women's rights, LGBTI rights, climate change, climate justice, and so on. And we have a dual focus. On the one hand, we produce a lot of art pieces, art campaigns, art actions around the world. And on the other hand, we also support and empower civil society actors worldwide through either various free-to-use resources that we develop or like super dedicated trainings on like visual framing, whole-based communications, making people care, and creative campaigning so that they're better in strategic communication and basically better in achieving their own goals. So this is what we are doing right now, what I'm doing right now alongside my amazing team. And I think my 15-year-old self would be ecstatic that this is what we ended up doing.
Welcome to A Life Worth Working, where we explore the soul of work and the winding spaghetti pathways that shape our lives. I'm Michelle Weiss, a writer on the future of education and work.
And I'm Dana Allen Walsh, an executive coach and pastor who accompanies people through the questions of meaning and purpose.
Together, we look at how detours, failures, and pivots aren't wasted. They're the very signs of growth and transformation.
In this episode, we chat with TED Senior Fellow Yana Buhrer Tavanier, who is the co-founder and executive director of Fine Arts, a global nonprofit creative studio for social impact.
Yana explores human rights innovation at the intersection of activism, art, tech, and science, and its potential to instigate change.
I think that my 15-year-old self didn't have the imagination for something like this, and like had to go through a very very non-linear path to get here. But also I think that the path that led us to me and my younger version of me led us to where we are right now is the only path that makes sense. And yes, if I didn't go through everything that I have went through, my reality right now was not going to be the same, was not going to be possible. Thus, I'm incredibly grateful for every hardship and every failure, because sometimes what we define as failure is actually the building block of our success that I have encountered to be where I am right now and to do what I so immensely value right now.
I love that. And on our podcast, we so often talk about these spaghetti pathways and nonlinear career pathways. So can you talk to us more about what has that look like? What has this nonlinear career path been for you?
I was born during communism in Bulgaria a long time ago. I was born in a family of people who opposed the system. In Bulgaria at the time, people who were vocal against the system, they kind of faced two different fates. They were either put in a political prison, thousands of people, or they were labeled as mentally ill. This happened not only in Bulgaria, this happened across the Soviet bloc at the time. And this was just a way to deal with opposing voices for the regime. The closest people that I had when I was growing up was the other young person in my family. my aunt. So she was older than me, but at the same time we had like this incredibly powerful connection. And she was an artist, and she was incredibly free spirited, and she was just incredibly brave in voicing what she thought, which is unthinkable to do so in a dictatorship. So my aunt, like thousands of others, she suffered the same fate. She was diagnosed as having schizophrenia, and she was, for the duration of her life, she suffered hundreds of ECT shocks that back in the day were delivered without like any kind of anesthesia, which led to her taking her own life at the age of 37, which is the thing that completely broke me and defined me for a very, very long period of time. I just barely became a teenager at this point. I spent like a couple of years completely frozen by this experience. And at a certain point, I had like I felt the need to do something with this pain, and the need to do something with this profound feeling of injustice that I have observed, not only in the relationship, in the aspect of what happened to my aunt, and my aunt is just the gravest example of what has happened to my family. Like everyone in my family suffered consequences because of the fact that they were not part of the communist regime and they were vocal against it.
Yana's commitment to meaningful impact began early. As a teenager, she dreamed of becoming a journalist to expose injustice and defend human rights. By the age of 19, she had already entered the profession and soon became an investigative journalist.
For nearly a decade, Yana focused on a hidden and harrowing issue in Eastern Europe: the treatment of people with intellectual and mental health disabilities in state institutions. Starting in Bulgaria and later expanding to 5 countries, she went undercover to document abuses, capture secret photos, and bring to light the inhumane conditions inside. Her reporting was driven by a clear goal: to shut these institutions down and to restore dignity to those society had warehoused and forgotten.
And on the outside, it seemed as if I was doing really well because I was getting published. I was getting all these awards. It seemed as if I'm, like my career is really on the rise. And at the same time, I felt like utter failure because with my reporting, I think I've been to over 50 institutions.
Wow.
No, they should be more, across these 5 countries. I was able to close down one for all these years. Yes, I raised awareness. Yes, people knew what is going on from the articles that I wrote and from the photos that I took. But yes, but only one institution, only one thing actually happened of the things that I wanted to have happened. And this incredibly deep and profound frustration led me to abandoning journalism and actually moving on to activism. I was invited to establish the campaigns department of the then biggest human rights nonprofit in Bulgaria. I had no idea how to do campaigning because I've never done campaigning. I've only, up until that moment in my life, I've only done journalism. So I bought a bunch of books from Amazon and led by these books and by my guts, I started, experimenting and trying to do things that in my opinion, have the potential to be effective, because something that I have learned from my time writing and my first months in activism is that facts alone don't do the trick. To uncover, to unveil the truth is not enough. to make people care, and that we need other ways in which to, yes, get people's attention, rise through the noise, but also like trigger empathy, make people, care, compel them to act. Like this requires so much more than just stating what is happening. So that's why I'm saying that I started experimenting. I started for various campaigns that I had to lead back then. I started inviting different artists to do small components of these campaigns. And I quickly realized that these collaborations with artists were the parts of the campaigns that actually were the things that people remembered, were the things that drew people in, were the things that, in some cases, grabbed people by the throat and really made them do something about the issue. So I realized I have heard a lot about, the power of art to translate complex issues into a language that makes people care. But I started seeing it, and I started seeing it again and again.
Around this time, Yana discovered the work of Dr. Stuart Brown, founder of the National Institute for Play. Dr. Brown had discovered something striking in his research. Nearly all mass murderers in the U.S. had one thing in common: a lack of play in childhood. His work led to the insight that nothing lights up the brain like play, and that the opposite of play isn't work, but depression.
Those ideas stayed with Yana during her own season of burnout, helping her see play not as a distraction, but as a superpower. Out of that breakdown came a breakthrough, the realization that art and creativity could be powerful tools for activism. That insight became the seed of Fine Acts, the organization she later founded to help activists and nonprofits around the world collaborate meaningfully with artists to spark care, empathy, and change.
Something that is very distinct about us is that we are science-based. On the one hand, this is where the part of play comes in. I really was drawn to the power of play, the scientific insights around play, initially by Dr. Stuart Brown, but later on by many other researchers. And these insights tell us that multidisciplinary play, so play across disciplines, truly sparks better ideas. That when we play, others want to join. So it's really important to have these spaces for play, specifically for the human rights or climate movement, that play can prevent the very, very high levels of burnout and depression amongst activists. And that it can give us the super needed feeling that we got this. And so based on this, at Fine Acts, we started doing a concept called Playtivism, which refers to the value of incorporating creative play and experimentation in activism. And it also refers to us building our own playgrounds, so different formats where we invite people from different disciplines. Sometimes these are technologists and artists. Sometimes these are activists and visual artists. Sometimes these are artists and journalists. And we invite these people from various backgrounds to basically play, experiment, and create with us.
I'm curious if you could elaborate on some examples of what Playtivism looks like in your work. Can you talk about what some of these collaborations look and feel like?
So a good example of a Playtivist format that we have developed, and perhaps my favorite one, is Labs. So a very unoriginal name for something that I think is quite original. So in Labs, we bring in together artists and technologists. We pair them in two-person teams. We brief these teams on a specific issue, depending on what we're focusing on in the respective lab, be it women's rights, domestic violence, freedom of expression, shrinking civic space, and so on and so forth. So we've helped labs on, I think, dozens of topics up until now. Typically, the briefing, it's in person. The briefing typically happens on a Friday evening, and then these teams have a couple of days to come up with an idea or a prototype that lies somewhere at the intersection of art and tech. It could be like an art installation with some tech component. It could be an app which has like a art dimension. But the idea is that on Sunday evening, all these teams are pitching in front of a jury and an audience, and one of these ideas is getting actual funds to be implemented by us at Fine Arts. So the beauty here is that these technologists, artists they've never met. We do very rigorous work in matching them. I think part of the success in this is like pairing the right people. So we do interviews, like forms and stuff. We really try to understand who these people are, and we match not only based on skills but also on personalities. And by the end of this, like the second day, it is just truly incredible what these teams are able to conceive. They're only briefed by activists or experts in a specific field. These experts are not part of the teams. They're not part of the ideation process. It is absolutely every time when I hear the ideas that are born out of labs, it just expands not only my mind, it expands my soul. It's just incredible creativity and commitment, and something beautiful also which I see beyond the ideas that are developed during labs. It is also the fact that typically people enter being curious about an issue, and they leave these 2.5 days being transformed into activists for this issue. And we keep on seeing, let's say, technologists who were a part of one of our labs or artists who were part of our labs, then continuing doing work with purpose later on in life. So it's really wonderful to see. And yeah, like just very briefly, some of, let's say, the lab that we did on freedom of expression, in the end, like, was a huge campaign that featured, one part of the campaign was like a pop-up bakery that sold like horribly tasting cupcakes to teach people about fake news. It's a longer story, but it was just like a little taste for it. Right. Or a drum set that featured the voices of women who are survivors of domestic violence. Now to actually, like make a point about the deafening silence that typically surrounds this issue. Mm-hmm. So it is really incredible to see that sometimes it is very important to create spaces that are inviting, that are joyous, processes that are playful. I'm not saying that all the results of our labs are playful, but I'm saying that the process is, and this is what is important to us, and this is what Playtivism is about. Yes, we do embrace joy as the process. It's not necessarily that the final result is going to be, funny or light. Mm-hmm. It's not about that. It's about feeling free, and feeling unburdened while in the process of creation, and feeling absolutely not constrained by the fear of failure. The thing in labs is that we design for success, but we completely embrace failure. and we're not afraid of it. And this is the only way in which I think we can do meaningful work, and work that is actually responding to an issue in a truly authentic way.
I would also love to hear from you, just like personally, how you incorporate play as a way to just, have the oxygen you need to breathe through injustice and all the activism work you're doing.
This is such a good question, and I do not have a good answer, because it is so true. I do not practice what I preach, to the extent of I am working too much. So the thing is that while creating all these playful, processes with my team, and while really creating impact and change together in my own personal life, I can be way more playful, and I can be creating way more space for joy. And currently, in all honesty, I don't, to the extent that I would wish.
Well, you may just get so much of it from your work, right? You're in it.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
And and you're creating that container for others to play. But I can't wait to talk to you in a few months, Yana, and ask you how you're making space for joy and play in your life, because you deserve that too. Yes.
Thank you. I would love to be able to do that, for sure. I'm grateful for the question about playing my own life. It's really made me rethink the way I exist in this world, and that maybe I need to do something different.
I'll be your accountability partner.
Okay. Thank you. I need one.
Yana, do you sense that the work that you do now feels like a calling to you?
I think that what I do now is what I'm meant to do. I think that what I and my team have built is smart in the way that it is a framework. It is, as I said, it's a creative studio. We work at the intersection of art, technology, science, and human rights and environment. But everything falls in this category. And it can never be boring, and every day is different from the next. And I have seen in my life that I'm very drawn to impact, and I'm very drawn to purpose, but at the same time, I'm the kind of person who is very comfortable being uncomfortable, and I seek the new thing, the new approach. I get bored very easily with approaches, and I seek the new thing constantly. And by creating Fine Acts in a way that Fine Acts is not one thing, one approach, one recipe, but is a framework within which we can do whatever we want, whatever we think makes sense. It is my calling. And it's something that I would have never said before, that something that I'm doing right now is the thing that I want to be doing until the rest of my life. But I can honestly say that this one is, just because it's not one thing. And I can be honest with you in this answer. And something that also I really like pivoting, and in this case, it's pivoting in the context of one organization. But I have been pivoting in my life up until now. But in some cases, like people think that pivots are messy. To me, pivots have always been about strategy, and I think that this is something that we need to be like clear about what our goal is, where do we want to see impact, and keep chasing that. And if this means that we need to like make shifts and turns or steps back, it's all okay, it's all right, and this is not messy. It is like, this is super strategic, and if we are clear on our mission, then this is really the smart thing to do.
Yeah, I'm curious if you think your ability to embrace pivots in your own career and also in the organization you're leading now comes from that fact that you're not afraid of discomfort. And what would you tell people? Because a lot of people fear pivots, even when they're not happy with what they're doing. What advice would you give someone who's considering a pivot?
I'm really not the one to give advice, but I'm confident in my own journey, I would say, and I'm grateful for my own journey, which in some cases has felt like a utter failure, but at the same time, as I shared, I'm deeply grateful for every single step of it. Several times before, I have like felt that I have reinvented myself, and I've even like used this word in conversation with others, like that I have reinvented myself so many times. And at a certain point, I questioned this, and I thought, have I really reinvented myself, or have I stayed true to myself? And I think that the reality is that for me, reinvention is persistence, because every new version of myself is just a deeper commitment to the same promise I made to myself as a young girl. And thus the word is not, in my case, is not reinvention, it's a recalibration, and it's much more true to me, because the mission never changes, the methods do. And I think that, like, if I were one to give advice, this is what my advice would be. If you can be honest with yourself, what your mission is, what your true north is. It doesn't need to be like a huge, bigger like calling. It doesn't need to, deal. It doesn't need to stem from personal trauma. Like in my own case, it doesn't need to deal with changing the world. If it's like the thing that you really want to do in your heart, if this is your North Star, then any pivot makes sense. Any pivot is smart. If you feel in your heart this is the thing to do, I think you need to do it, because even if it's a mistake, even if it's a failure, you're going to learn from it. And while success is nice and good decisions are great, failures can be gifts and can be precious. So this is the way I look at,
it's so beautiful.
Currently at everything that is happening in my life.
We asked all of our guests about a moment of stuckness, the hardest part of their life, an obstacle, what we call the shit of life that becomes the compost for good things to grow.
Because I listened to some of your
yes.
episodes, I was prepared for that.
I love it.
I wanted to share with you something that really amuses me to this day, and really is a decision that I made, and I think it was very brave, but also it was incredibly shitty.
I'm ready for it.
And it is the decision that made it all possible for me. So as I shared, when I was a teenager, I really, really, really was committed to become a journalist. And I was successful in my application to university, so I was accepted to study journalism. But at the same time, I'm an incredibly impatient person, so I really wanted to start practicing journalism and not only studying journalism for years. And I felt stuck because this is not an easy thing to do when you're 18 and 19 years old. And there was an incredible amount of luck, because when I was going to my very, very first lecture in journalism, and I was sitting in a tram, which was leading me from my, I was living in Sofia in the last building in the city. That was even after the sign Sofia, then they had my building block. So a tram was taking me to this lecture, and next to me on the tram, there was a neighbor who sat next to me. And she said, "Oh, hi, Yana, what happened with your journalism exams?" And I said, "Yay, I was accepted. Actually, right now I'm going." And she said, "That's incredible. You need to speak to my husband, because you know that he works in a newspaper." And I had completely forgotten that. And I said, "That's amazing. Yes, I'm definitely going to talk to him about an internship." And that same night, I rang their doorbell, and I spoke to him, and I said, "Hey, I would love to do a short internship in your newspaper. Would this be possible? I don't really have experience, but I'm super eager to learn." And he said, "Absolutely, 100%. There is just one thing that you need to be able to do, which is use a computer." And I said, "Yes, of course I can use a computer. That's something that I've done for years." While in reality, I have never switched on a computer in my life, because we were incredibly poor. And there was no time to learn, because he said, "If you want, you can start tomorrow. If you're open to it, just start tomorrow. And I can even give you 2 places, 2 press conferences you can go to." And I said, "Yes, that sounds incredible. Let's do it." And then the next day, I went to these 2 press conferences early in the morning. I went to this newspaper, and they said, "Yay, you have 2 very short pieces you need to write. One is 10 lines, and the other one is 13 lines." And I remember this very distinctly, because this is such a trauma in my life. And I was standing in front of this computer, my computer, in this newspaper office that I needed to turn on, and I had no idea how, because it's one of these old computers, and I thought that I'm switching it on, but actually I was turning on only the monitor and not the computer, because the computer was under the desk, and I didn't know even how to turn it on. There was someone who showed me. Long story short, it took me 6 hours to type, because I also didn't know how to type. I mean, I've used typewriter, some of my father's typewriters, but I was not good at it at all. But they didn't fire me this day. My neighbor was kind of ashamed, but he gave me a second chance. What I did was every single day I would go at 6 a.m. to this newspaper and practice typing. And for a year, they raised my salary 4 times. It was a tiny salary, but still 4 times. That's I think I have bragging rights. And I wanted to share this story because I have so many failures in my life, but I really want to share this one because this is an example of the way I think about it. It's an example of controlled failure. So controlled failure is a deliberate failure. You know that the crash is coming. I knew very well what I'm stepping into, yes. But it's the quickest way to the other side. It's kind of the way that I'm imagining it is you're entering a building on fire, and you know that you're going to walk through this building scarred, but it's going to be forward. And this is what I did. And I'm so proud with this like younger version of myself that in order to get my foot in the door, I was so committed to become a journalist. This was the quickest way. So yeah, I was comfortable with this lie, and in the end, everything was fine.
Oh, I love that story. And I love that idea of controlled failure and just recognizing like, I am going to get wounded. This is going to be embarrassing. And yet I still know where I'm headed. Like there's such clarity there. And that you were persistent about your own learning. You're getting up at 6 a.m. and learning how to use the computer. Wow. Oh.
Are you now the fastest typer ever?
With probably like perfect fingers on the keyboard all the right ways.
Yana doesn't talk about pivots in theory. She has lived those pivots and seen them as strategic. They're not mistakes, which is a wonderful takeaway for all of us.
There's a lot of courage in staying aligned to your true north.
And also a ton of humility in acknowledging, like Yana had to do early on, that sometimes what we think is valuable doesn't make the difference we were hoping for.
That's right. And it's just as she explains. If you have that true north and you're clear on your mission, then the how can change.
Yes, nothing is lost if those shifts are in service of the mission.
Or, as we like to say, nothing wasted.
Nothing is ever wasted.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of A Life Worth Working. Remember, purpose isn't found on a straight line. It's forged in the twists, turns, and spaghetti pathways of our lives.
Subscribe and share with friends who may be navigating their own uncertain paths. And keep searching with us for the soul of work.